Hey there, it's Olivia Savannah here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and today I'm here to give you another big book haul because those are the only kind of book hauls that I do on my channel. I'd like to reassure everyone that my book buying ban continues to go strong. I did not buy any of the books in this haul except for one, and I will explain that as we get on and talk about the books. I would also like to say that if I don't say who the book is from, it's from a publisher. And without further ado, let's get right down to the books. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is the one that I did actually buy from all of these books, and that is because in my I'm going on a year-long buying ban video I mentioned that I'm allowed to buy just one book all year, and that is Greywaren by Maggie Stiefvater, because it is the last and final book in the Dreamer Trilogy, which is the extended series to the Raven Cycle series, which is one of my favourite series of all time. And I also would have just kept the buying ban if it wasn't for the fact that I'd been getting the subscription book special editions, and so you can only get those for a limited amount of time. So I got it. I've already unboxed this in a vlog, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I just want to show you it's here, it's in my hands, and I'm very scared of reading it because then it will be the end. The next book I have here I'm also very excited to read, and that is Olympus Volume 3 by Rachel Smythe, and this is the third book in the Hades and Persephone mythology graphic novel retelling that we all adore and it's great. And yes, it's basically exactly what I said. It's a beautifully illustrated graphic novel that retells a romance between Persephone and Hades. It kind of makes it a bit more modern in some ways and a bit more contemporary, but it was also just really sweet sometimes, really funny. And I've seen more and more people describing this as a dark romance because it's got dark romance elements such as an age gap in it, and I can see that and I can see why it's relevant. So I kind of go into this one knowing that you might get some dark romance elements when you are reading it. I have the Sunbearer's Trials by Aiden Thomas, and this one has been kind of described as Hunger Games meets magic. And so there's these trials going on and the people who go through them get fame, but you have to survive. There's risk of death, and for the first time in a long time these two people get chosen, and one of them is our main character who is trans, and it's just this magical Hunger Games-esque style story that sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. I've been meaning to read Aiden Thomas for quite a while, so I'm very much looking forward to doing so. There are quite a few gothic and horror books in this haul because I'm filming this in the time of October, even though it's going to go up much later knowing me. But one of the books that I got was What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. T. Kingfisher is an author I've heard so much about. Not only do they write horror, but they also write fantasy, and I've just heard such good things about this horror style of writing, and I'm so excited to try it for myself. This one in particular is a retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's The House of Usher, and with that cover it sounds like it's going to be mushroomy and dark and gothic, and I am so ready to read it. We have The Midnight Club by Christopher Pike, and this one has recently been turned into a Netflix adaptation, so you can watch it and read it, and it seems like it's going to be a quick short read, so well worth getting the book to accompany your film watching. And in this one we are at a teen and children's hospice, so all of these teen and children are terminally ill and are dying, and this club of children and teens meet at midnight, the Midnight Club, and they tell scary stories, but maybe there's more truth to some of these stories that they're telling than they think. And they also make this pact that the first one of them who dies has to try and come back and reach them from across the grave as a ghost. So that is where this story starts, and it sounds like it's going to be lovely and dark and a lot of fun, hopefully, too. We have Bitterthorn by Kat Dunn, which is described as a darkly gothic romance, and that sounds interesting. We're set in a world where there is this witch who comes out and chooses one person to draw into her depths every now and again, and she chooses Mina, who is our main character, and that is what this story is about. It sounds dark, it sounds mysterious, and I'm very curious to see where the romance element is going to come in. And I just really want to say a big thank you to Anderson Press for this proof with sprayed edges that is signed what is this personalization? It's amazing, and so I'm really looking forward to reading this one next year, closer to release date. I was also sent Court of the Vampire Queen by Katee Robert. I am so excited. Katee Robert writes dark romance books, so again this is going to be a dark romance, and you can tell it's going to be about vampires from that title. I am a big fan of vampires. I love them in any capacity, in any way I can get vampires into my books, into my films, I will, and so I'm very much looking forward to that. And I've also just heard such good things about Katee Robert's dark romance, and as someone who does like a good dark romance from here to there, now and again, I'm looking forward to getting to this one and seeing what I think of it for myself and trying her writing. And we also have Glory by NoViolet Bulawayo, and this is one that was on the Booker Prize for 2022, and I saw Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot just really loved this book. It's kind of got an Animal Farm retelling vibes to it, and it just sounds so interesting and it just sounds so good. And I've been a bit skeptical of some of the books that were on the Booker Prize this year, and I was not very impressed with all of their selections, but this is actually one that came out of it that I really wanted to read, so I am looking forward to giving it a go. My good friend Abby from Abbey of Pelennor was unhauling some books, and I took some from her unhaul, which she's probably happy about because I'm always unhauling books to her and ruining her balancing the books. But she unhauled the Young Elites trilogy by Mary Lou, which starts with the Young Elites and then goes the Rose Society and then ends with the Midnight Star. And I read the Legend trilogy by Mary Lou and flew my way through them. I thought they were so much fun, and I'm hoping the Young Elites trilogy will be similar. I don't know that much about it, but I do think it is a villain origin story, kind of sci-fi dystopian-y book. I could be wrong. I could be lying to you, but I will read it and find out and report back. But yes, very happy to have these, getting them secondhand from her unhaul for free, because I was prepared to spend money on these at some point to give them a go. Very kindly sent to me by the author was Mina and the Slayers by Amy McCaw, and I read Mina and the Undead fairly recently, actually this month, in the month that I'm filming this, and I had a very good time. And this is the sequel, the second book in the series. So in the first one we meet Mina, and she is going to stay with her sister who works in a house of horrors, and she loves horror culture. She's ready to get involved, but when she gets there, women start dying in the ways in which murders happen in some of the films and books that she's a big fan of, and her sister gets framed and she needs to figure out what's happening. It's one of those young adult horror books that are not too full of body gore, that are a lot of fun, and that is a very good time. So I'm excited to continue on and see what adventures and trouble Mina can get herself into next. I am so excited to have The Holiday Trap by Roan Parrish in my hands, and hopefully by the time that this haul comes up I will have read and reviewed it, because December is coming and I am ready to read it for December. I love a good Christmas book, I'm all about them, and this one is a Christmas romance book. I also have read other romance books by Roan Parrish. She has written, I know I talk about Alexis Hall all the time, but she has written one of my favourite romance series, and I picked her up on a whim because of her name is one letter away from being Ronan Parrish. If you know, you know. And so this one follows these two different houses, and in both of these houses the relationships aren't going particularly well, and they need some space to kind of be by themselves, to figure themselves out and decide what they're going to do next. So they decide to do a house swap, where each of these people who are going through relationship troubles swap house and see how that will work things out and if it will solve things. I think it's going to get quite messy. I'm also very excited for The Death of Jane Lawrence, which is by Caitlin Starling, and this just sounds fantastic. It sounds like a mashup of Jane Eyre and Frankenstein. Doesn't that sound amazing? So in this one we're following Jane Lawrence, and she decided that the best way forward, the best thing for her to do is to find a husband. However, on their wedding night, her very proper and practical surgical husband is nowhere to be found, and instead she is faced with this trembling man who has created something and he does not know what he is doing. And so I just feel like elements of Frankenstein and elements of Jane Eyre are going to combine, and it's going to be wonderful. I don't know why I'm singing, but yes, I'm so excited. It sounds so good. This book I got with a couple of other books that you'll see in this haul from Books in My Bag. I was working with them to promote the Reader Awards, which are the awards in the UK that are chosen entirely by booksellers and readers. So we get to put through books that we think deserve to win, and also we are the ones who get to vote and say which book should win the ultimate prize. And they have different categories, so they have young adult, middle grade, adult, non-fiction, poetry. They cover all of the grounds, and I was helping to showcase some of their middle grade books and for the Children's Award. So they sent me the shortlist, and in that shortlist was Like a Charm by McNicoll. And this is a middle grade fantasy book that's set in Edinburgh, and she gets pulled into the magic around her family and on an adventure that she didn't even know was going to be possible by the time that this book started. And I've heard such good things about this author and how heartwarming her books are, but also how important some of her other ones are. So I've been meaning to try something by her for a long time, and I'm very much looking forward to and excited about the fact that I have one of her books on my shelf now to get to. Won a little giveaway on BiblioBeth's Instagram account because I figured out the prompt that she had in her caption, and so she sent me a book off of my wish list, and she sent me The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. This is one of those Penguin Classics library editions, and I collect these, so I'm very happy to have one of these editions on my shelf. I haven't read this H.G. Wells book in particular, but I do want to read more of his works ever since I read The Invisible Man and really had a good time with it. So that is why it was on my wish list, and that is why I'm very happy to add this one to my shelves. I was sent a proof of The Marriage Act by John Mars, and I'm very, very excited to read this one. It is set in the same world as The One by John Mars, and this one is focusing a bit more on the marriage element and if you can have a healthy and stable marriage when it's government sanctioned and they are watching your every single move. And I think it's going to be interesting. I haven't looked into it much more beyond that because I need to read The One, but I think it's going to be a fun back-to-back to do, to read The One and then to read The Marriage Act and watch The One, which has been adapted. So very much looking forward to getting to this one in January. And I was also sent 2 of the beautiful Picador collection classics because Cormac McCarthy has another book out. So one of the ones that I was sent, and I was very happy to be sent, is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. This is one of the great dystopian books that was really a game changer in the genre, and I've been meaning to read it ever since then because I do read a lot of sci-fi. Dystopian falls under sci-fi, and therefore I've also read a lot of these dystopian classics and have a lot of interest in them. And then we've also got No Country for Old Men, and it's kind of a crime westerny feeling one where we have our main character who is into the gang, the crimes, the underbelly of all of what's going on in the Western world, and he decides he is faced with the decision of whether he could continue on his path or he can cut his losses and run, and he decides to go for the cutting and the running, which of course means he needs to evade all of the people that are pursuing him and after him. And this one has a film out, so I'm very ready to try this author. So we're back to Abby's Unhaul, and the other book that I got from her Unhaul was The Muse by Jessie Burton. I've just been steadily reading my way through this author's books and having a good time. I've read both Miniaturist and also The Confession and had a very good time with it, and The Muse sounds like it's going to be one of those kind of books. Historical fiction as always, and this one focuses a bit more on authors and writers, if I believe. So authors, writers and art. So let's see what this can give me. Haven't really read too deeply into the synopsis, but I don't really need to by now because I know that I like this author's writing. And we're back to the Books in My Bag awards. So another one that was on the shortlist was Loki, A Bad God's Guide to Taking the Blame by Louie Stowell. And this one is following Loki, who once Thor's hammer goes missing, of course, he gets blamed and he's trying to clear his name because he did not take Thor's hammer. Sounds like it's going to be fun, and I know this is the second book in a series, but it sounds like one you can read as a standalone. So I'll just be hopping into the middle of the series here. In keeping with middle grade, we have The House in the Woods by Yvette Fielding, and this is a middle grade horror book, as you can tell from the cover and that title. It's following these children who decide to play with an Ouija board in the woods doesn't that sound like a bad idea? And they release all these kinds of horrors, and they kind of need to fix what they've created and face the horrors that they've brought out into the real world. Next up, we have one I'm very excited about, and that is The Haunting of Tyrese Walker by J.P. Rose, and this is a horror young adult book, and it's set in Jamaica. Yes, I'm always looking for more books set in Jamaica, especially horror. And in this one, we're following Tyrese Walker, who's dealing with grief, and he's unable to cope with it, he's unable to process it, so he's sent to live with his family out in Jamaica to give him a bit of distance from the whole situation. But he's starting to see things, and he starts to think that maybe his grief is driving him insane when he is warned that he's being hunted by the Shadow Man. So yes, I'm very excited about this. I'm glad that we're seeing horror in different forms with different mythologies behind it, and I'm all here for it. Here for it, here for it, here for it. And now the last two books from the Books in My Bag middle grade situation. So we have Skanda and the Unicorn Thief by A.S. Stedman. This is the one that I saw everywhere in the UK when it came out, and it sounds like it's one of those adventure fantasy books, and this one has an involvement of unicorns, which sounds like a lot of fun. And then we also have Grimwood Let the Fur Fly by Nadia Shireen, and this is a comedy adventure kind of book, so it's supposed to be funny, it's supposed to be entertaining and lighthearted. I was sent by surprise a paperback copy of Maybe I Don't Belong Here by David Harewood, and I've already read this one. I read this when it came out in hardback. I read a proof copy for review, and I absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite memoirs of last year, so I definitely recommend it. And if you didn't get your hands on it in hardback, look at this paperback. I prefer the paperback cover. It's well worth you getting. So this one is about David Harewood, who is an actor over here in the UK. Well, he's acted in US things too, but he's a British actor. He's black, and he had a psychotic breakdown, and it's talking about racism, and particularly gaslighting behind racism, and the ways in which you can feel like you don't belong anywhere, and how that can affect your mental health. And it talks especially about male mental health, but also being a black man dealing with mental health issues while being in the limelight as a celebrity. And I just think it captured all of the spectrums of that situation and all of the different nuance of it very well. It was emotional, it was personal. I was just feeling ripped in all these different ways while reading this book, and most of all, I could relate to this book. I could see myself, I could see my experiences, and I felt like it was really important message and story for people to read, to understand, to know the ways in which they can get support, but also to know the ways in which they are not alone throughout the things that they are facing. And so I just think this is a really important book that more people need to be reading. I was sent by surprise Girlhood Unfiltered, which is an anthology collection by several different black teenagers who have written this, as far as I believe. So on the back I can see age ranges from about 16, 15 to 23, and these women are all talking about what it's like to be a girl in a very unfiltered and honest way. We have Ma'am by Jessica George, which is a debut novel, and this one is following our main character who's always been told who she is by her Ghanaian parents. She's her dad's carer, a replacement for her mum. She's all of these responsible things, but she wants to be different. She wants to be bright. She wants to be someone who speaks up and says what she wants and claims it for herself. But to do that, she might have to lose a lot to find out who she really is, and it's about her book and her journey to doing so. And I'm always here for books by black authors talking about becoming themselves and into their identity and flourishing and growth. So I'm looking forward to seeing how well this book manages to deal with those subjects too. And then the next few books, the last lot, come from two different events. So first of all, Mills and Boone sent me some romances. They asked me what tropes I tend to enjoy, and then they sent a couple my way. And I am going to start with the two Christmas ones because I love everything to do with Christmas, and I will be reading these in December. So the first one is Meet Me in London by Georgia Tolofo, and this one is full of the fake dating trope. We have someone who works in a vintage clothes shop and it's just not getting the attention she needs, and then she meets Oliver, who needs to draw attention away from something that his mother keeps meddling in. So to distract his mother, he's going to ask her to pretend to fake date and be his fiance, so that the mother gets caught up in the relationship rather than in his business. and it just sounds like it's going to be cute. I love fake dating, I love Christmas, so this is going to be a very good combination for me. Christmas in Rosebend by Naima Simone, and this one is a small town romance kind of story, and the main character is searching for her birth father and does not want to get distracted by the ruggedly sexy, good-looking boy in town. And we have The Good Girl's Guide to Rakes by Ava Lee. This is a historical fiction romance, and in this one we're following our lead character. She is someone who is the good girl. She always knows the right thing to do, and she meets this bad boy who's always doing the wrong thing, and because of his best friend who needs his help, he kind of needs to get to know people who are in the right kind of circles. So he enlists the help of this girl, and she says, I will help you only if you show me the more scandalous side of London, because I would like to live a little. So they're both helping each other in different ways, and that is what this romance is about. And then last but not least, we have Vacation Crush and The Marriage Mandate. One is by Yahara St. John and the other is by Shannon McKinnon. It's a 2-in-1 in this little mass market paperback. And these are 2 romances with black main characters in them. And so I'm looking forward to them. Thank you so much to Mills and Boon for filling up my romance reading list. And then last but not least, last night actually, I was at Picador's New Voices event where they showcased their debut authors, and I may have picked up a few proofs at that event. Locks by Ashley Nugent, and this one is about a teenage boy who spends his 17th birthday in a detention centre in Jamaica. He has grown up in Liverpool, and he's got a white Scottish mother and a black father who's Jamaican, and he's never quite felt like he fit in Liverpool. He's been harassed by the police for being black, and he is just got this black culture that is foisted upon him, and he doesn't feel like he connects to it. So at 17 he decides he's going to go to Jamaica and he's going to connect to his black roots, and he's going to find himself there, only to be called white boy when he's in Jamaica, and to discover that maybe you can't find identity in such a clear-cut and easy way. And it just sounds like it's going to be insightful, and it's going to be focusing on identity and culture, and something that I can relate to as well. We've also got here Milk by Alice Kinsella, and this is a memoir book about pregnancy, postpartum depression, and being a pregnant woman in Ireland and the way that mothers are treated in Ireland. And I don't know why I keep reading these memoirs that focus on motherhood and why I'm so interested in this subject as a young woman who's not going to be giving birth anytime soon, but I really am, and so I'll be reading this one at some point too. I don't know where the light has gone, all of the clouds have just darkened and it looks horrible out there, but I'm gonna finish. We also have Not Alone by Sarah K. Jackson, and this is kind of a sci-fi dystopian book where the air outside and whatever is outside can kill you. And so this woman has been living with her son in the safety of their flat. They can't go outside. And at the point of the start of the book, the mother has developed a cough. She is realized that she's really not well. She's wondering how she's going to support her son, and then a survivor shows up, and she might have to venture into the outdoor world for the sake of her son's future. Yeah, that sounds like something I would read for sure. Everything's Fine by Cecilia Rebess is one that just sounds like it could be a very, very interesting discussion-y book. So this is actually at its heart a rom-com. We've got a black woman, we've got a white man who fall in love, but the big kicker is that she is a liberal and he is a conservative. And it's about whether or not they can actually make their relationship work when they have such strong differing political opinions, and it kind of delves into some of the political elements while also being a romance book and talking about their chemistry. So I just think it's going to be a very, very interesting blend, and I'm looking forward to seeing the author's take on such a controversial relationship. And then last but not least, we have Sparrow by James Hines, and this one is a historical book that's set way back, and it's following the life of a slave within the Roman Empire and kind of what his experience is and what he gets up to. And that is what I understood from the talk about it, but it does sound like it had some very good writing from that extract. I've been getting into historical fiction again, which is surprising even me, and so I definitely wanted to give this one a go. And there you have it. Those are all of the books that I've recently acquired lately. Not bought, received or acquired. Please let me know in the comment section down below what is the latest book you've bought, received, acquired or borrowed. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more. Don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. And you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior!